My name is Natalie Carter, I'm 34, and I just got back home after serving 12 years in the U.S. Army. I spent most of my adult life overseas, first in Iraq and Afghanistan, then in Germany, working as a combat medic. I stitched wounds in dusty tents and held dying soldiers' hands as they said their final words. I've seen humanity at its most courageous, and its most broken, but none of it prepared me for a phone call I received 3 days before Christmas. I had just finished unpacking the last box in my new Seattle apartment. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom with creaky floors and a view of a parking lot, but it was mine. After years of living out of duffel bags and barracks, I finally had a space of my own. Cinnamon candles filled the air, laundry was drying on the rack, and I'd already packed a small suitcase for the holidays. The gifts were wrapped. My sweater was ready, soft, deep red, simple. I was reaching for my keys when my phone rang. My younger brother, Dylan. "Hey, Nat," he said, like everything was fine. "So, about Christmas." My stomach dropped. "Lena's coming," he went on. "She's really into energy, like how a room feels. And with you just getting back, after everything, she's worried it might feel heavy." Heavy. That word hit hard. "It's nothing personal," he added quickly. "Just, maybe it's better if you sit this one out." I said nothing, just listened. An hour later, my mother called. Her voice was gentle, overly sweet. "Honey, we're just trying to keep things smooth. Lena's sensitive, and we don't want to confuse things. Honestly, if you come, we might not even answer the door." That's when I got it. I wasn't just being asked to stay away. I was being erased. I didn't argue, I didn't beg, I just said, "Okay," and hung up. Then I walked over to my suitcase, unzipped it, and slowly began putting everything back, not because I had nowhere to go, but because I finally understood where I stood. I wasn't going to fight for a place at a table where I wasn't wanted. For years, I thought coming home would bring healing, that after everything, the war zones, the triage tents, the grief, I'd be welcomed with pride, that someone would say, "We're so proud of you, you did it." That moment never came. Growing up, I was always the odd one out. My mom liked quiet girls in pressed blouses. She taught Dylan how to bake cookies and told me I ran like a boy. At 10, I asked for a telescope for Christmas. I got a pink jewelry box. They called me intense, serious, stubborn. When I joined the army at 22, my mom cried, not out of pride, but shame. "You'll be crawling through dirt like a man," she said. "How will you ever find a husband?" My dad didn't say much, just looked at me over his coffee and said, "Don't come back broken." Dylan was the golden child, artistic, sensitive. Every time he painted something remotely decent, it went on the fridge. When he dropped out of art school to find himself, they threw him a party. When I deployed for the first time, they forgot to call. Still, I sent gifts every year. I called on birthdays. I sent postcards from faraway places with sketches and notes like, "Hope this one makes you smile." I paid for their roof repairs after a winter storm, quietly, anonymously. I sent Dylan money when his freelance gigs fell through. Once, I even pawned a medal I'd earned in Germany so he could fix his broken laptop. I never asked for anything back. I was the helper, the steady one, the dependable daughter who always showed up, even when there was no room left for her at the table. And I told myself that was enough. But slowly, the truth became clear. Dylan was praised for being emotional. I was scolded for being too much. When he missed a birthday, it was quirky. When I missed one, it was thoughtless. When he painted grief, it was art. When I spoke of the soldiers I'd held as they died, it was too heavy. I had mistaken being needed for being loved. And now, after 12 years of silence and service, after carrying other people's pain across continents, I was being told that I didn't fit into their version of joy. For the first time, I stopped blaming myself for not belonging. Maybe I was never meant to. I didn't tell anyone, not my old unit, not my neighbor, who always offered to feed my cat, not Claire, my closest friend from med school, who once mailed me a card that said, "To my favorite chaos medic, come home soon." That night, I sat on my floor surrounded by carefully chosen gifts, a brush set for Dylan, a navy scarf for Mom, a signed book for Dad. I looked at them for a long time, then I peeled off the tags and packed everything away. Next, I opened my banking app, canceled the $500 monthly transfer I sent to help with Dylan's rent, closed the quiet emergency fund I kept for my parents, voided the prepaid grocery card I'd set to deliver on the 24th. Not out of anger, not out of spite. Just clarity. I had spent years building my life around being useful to people who never truly saw me. And now, I was done. Christmas Eve came quietly. Snow dusted the windowsills like powdered sugar. I made hot chocolate, lit the smallest candle I owned, and wrapped myself in a fleece blanket that still smelled faintly of military-issued detergent. I didn't cry. No sad music, no journal full of dramatic words. I just sat in the quiet and let the stillness settle around me like snow. For once, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I wasn't waiting for a text, or a call, or some last-minute apology. Something inside me had shifted. This wasn't about getting them back. It was about letting go of the part of me that kept hoping they'd ever be different. Christmas Day, I walked around Green Lake Park. A thermos of coffee in my hand, I watched families laugh, kids build uneven snowmen, and couples pull sleds behind them. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. For the first time in years, I felt like myself. I wasn't heavy. I was free. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was Aunt Beth, my dad's sister. The kind of woman who still writes birthday cards in cursive, tucks pressed flowers into the envelopes, and always sounds like she's calling from a church or a closet. I hesitated, then picked up. Her voice was low. "Natalie, what happened?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Christmas," she whispered. "Lena left in the middle of dinner. No one knows why, but your name came up." I sat upright. "How? I wasn't even there." "She saw a photo of you in the hallway," Beth said. "One from your graduation, full uniform." She stared at it for a long time, then asked, "Your mom, is that Natalie? The same Natalie who served in Fallujah?" "Fallujah." My chest tightened. Beth continued, "Turns out her father was a contractor overseas. He got caught in an IED blast outside the green zone. She was 19 at the time. Said a female medic saved his life, talked him through it, kept him awake, kept him alive. She never forgot the name." She paused. "Natalie Carter." A wave of memory hit me. A man, bleeding, with glass in his neck and shrapnel in his leg. I held his hand while we waited for the chopper. He had asked me to tell his daughter he was sorry for missing Christmas again. I told him I would. Lena never knew it was me until she saw that photo. Beth went on, "After that, she asked if you were the same sister they'd uninvited. When your mom said yes, she stood up, grabbed her coat, and left, didn't say another word." I could picture it. The table going silent. Not from shouting, not from drama, but from truth. Sharp, quiet, and undeniable. "She posted something online too," Beth added, "didn't use names, but it's spreading, something about kindness being treated like a threat, about cruelty hidden behind polite smiles." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She hadn't meant to blow things up. She'd just finally seen me. And somehow, that was enough. The first call came that evening. It was my mother. She didn't say hello. "I don't know what you said to her," she snapped, "but Dylan is a mess. Lena blocked him, she won't return his calls, and now this post she made is going viral in her little art community." I didn't say anything. I told her. "She tagged your photo in the comments," she hissed, "said you were the medic who saved her dad. That's not something you just put out there." There it was. Not concern. Not curiosity. Just panic. "She's dragging Dylan's name through the mud," my mom went on, "and she made it sound like we mistreated you. That's not fair. We never meant to hurt you." Silence from my end. Then the real reason for the call: "We need you to reach out to her, clarify things, let her know there were no bad intentions." So there it was. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was their PR damage control. They didn't want the truth cleared up. They wanted the mess cleaned up. I hung up without saying yes. The next morning, I got an email. Subject line: "Let's reset." Signed by all three of them, my mother, my father, and Dylan, a united front. It was carefully written. Polite. Safe. Empty. They said things had gotten emotional. That actions may have been misinterpreted. Not one real apology. Just vague revisions of history. Then, in paragraph 4, came the real ask. They hoped I would contact Lena to clarify the narrative. That's when I laughed, quietly, bitterly. They weren't sorry I had been hurt. They were sorry I had mattered to someone who could expose them. Later that week, my old commanding officer called. His voice was calm, kind. He told me someone had contacted his office, claiming concern over my mental state since returning home. He dismissed it immediately, said it didn't even warrant a report. But the fact that it happened at all chilled me. Someone in my family had tried to discredit me, to paint me unstable, just in case the truth didn't go away on its own. My father. It had to be him. He didn't call me. He called my chain of command. He tried to discredit me, to undermine me, to take the one thing I had built with my own hands and earned with my own blood. And with that, something clicked into place. Something final. This wasn't about Christmas. It wasn't about Lena. It was about being erased from the narrative entirely. And for the first time, I had no desire to write myself back in. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon. I was folding laundry, half a mug of black coffee beside me, still in sweatpants, no plans, no expectations. Then, a knock. I peeked through the peephole. My mother, my father, Dylan. All three, standing on the porch like ghosts who hadn't quite learned how to look human, faces arranged into what they probably thought was concern. I opened the door but didn't move from the threshold. My mother spoke first, her voice feather soft. "We just want to talk." Dylan looked wrecked, shoulders slumped, eyes flickering everywhere but toward me. My father said nothing, typical. I crossed my arms, leaning against the frame. "We've been thinking," my mom continued, "and we realize, maybe we could have handled things better. Maybe. Not we were wrong. Not I'm sorry. Just maybe." Then she added, "But this thing with Lena, it's gotten out of hand." There it was. Not a visit for me, but damage control for the fire my presence had sparked. I stayed silent. Dylan finally spoke. His voice was barely there. "She said I let people mock someone she admired, that I laughed when they made jokes about you being intense, that I didn't stop it." Then, for the first time in years, he really looked at me. "Did I?" he asked. "Did I let that happen?" I could have laid it all out, the jokes, the eye rolls, the buzzkill comments, the way he never spoke up when I was being diminished. But I didn't need to. He already knew. "You didn't just let it happen," I said. "You joined in." They stood there, waiting, hoping I'd fold, that I'd say it was all okay. But I didn't. I let the silence stretch. Then I gave them one word. "No." Not loud. Not cruel. Just firm. "No, I won't help you fix this. No, I won't lie to protect your comfort. And no, I don't want to talk." My mom flinched. My dad looked at the floor. Dylan opened his mouth, then closed it. I stepped back and shut the door. Not with a slam, just a quiet that echoed louder than any scream. On the other side of that door, I exhaled. Not because it was over. But because, finally, I had chosen myself. 3 days later, a package arrived. No return address. Just my name, block letters, neatly written, and a wax seal. Inside, a letter. Thick cream paper, smudged ink, personal. It was from Lena. She wrote about her father, how he still talks about the medic who kept him awake through the pain, who told him he wasn't going to die alone, how he keeps a photo of his medical team in his study, how her mother still calls him lucky. And then, she wrote about that night. About walking into a house where the laughter felt staged. Where smiles didn't reach the eyes. Where my name was used like a punchline. "I thought I was walking into a celebration," she wrote. "Instead, I walked into a room full of people trying to silence someone who once saved my family." She said she didn't leave to cause drama. She left because pretending not to notice felt like betrayal. At the end, she thanked me. Not for saving her father, but for standing in who I was. And not shrinking. For reminding me, she wrote, that strength doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes, it just says no, and means it. I read the letter 3 times. Then I framed it. I hung it beside my discharge papers and the folded flag from my last deployment. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to explain myself. Not to people who confused obedience with love. Not to a family that only valued my silence. Not even to the version of me who kept hoping for their approval. Because someone had finally seen me. Not as a utility. Not as a burden. But as a person. And that truth wasn't heavy. It was clarifying. That evening, I sat at my desk, finishing some freelance work. The light from the window stretched golden across the hardwood. In the distance, kids laughed, throwing snowballs under a pale blue sky. And I realized, I didn't need to earn a place at someone else's table. I had built my own. And at that table, I sat in peace,